Hi guys, happy Friday. Hope everyone is doing well. I'll start with a few quick updates. So first and foremost, the last couple of videos I was talking about how I got that review on my profile that was directed towards Turo support. Good news is support has decided to remove that review off my profile and it's officially gone. So I'm really thankful and grateful for that, and so glad that they made that decision. So definitely a win for me there. Okay, and then now let's talk about how my week and weekend has looked like. So again, it's been just such a weird trend that at least I've been seeing here in this market. My week, the weekdays, so Monday through Friday, I was completely booked up. All of my cars rented out all throughout the week, which is really so unusual because that's not generally the case. And not only that, but this upcoming weekend, today's Friday, I'm completely booked out as well. So that's quite different from the last 2 weeks that I've had. So again, remaining cautiously optimistic. I had another John Wayne rental today, which was good. So that was a few John Wayne rentals this week, a few last week. So I'm starting to see a little bit of consistency there. I went to John Wayne today and kind of checked out the main parking lot, which is generally always so full that it's very hard to even find an open parking spot right there on the terminal level. In the last couple of weeks, I saw that, it was around 40 to 50% full. Today, maybe because it's also Friday, it was about 60% full. So it's really good to kind of see that airport traffic picking up as well. The few people that I did have flying in, they seemed very comfortable with traveling and really at ease with the pickup process and just the whole experience. So that's all good, optimistic, positive news that I'm experiencing here on my end. But again, like I said, cautiously optimistic because things do definitely seem a little uncertain and the trends are just not very predictable at the moment, at least here in my market. And then I read a really great report, I think it was yesterday actually, that said on April 14th, TSA recorded about 90,000 passengers that passed through airports. And then last Sunday, they recorded, I believe it was 440,000 travelers. So we're definitely seeing that increase in numbers, but to put it in context, that is only about 17% of the normal traffic that they would see this time of year. So that is incredibly low. 17% is just, it's nominal. It's so low. But good news is that at least that is increasing. I myself have booked a trip for next month. I'll be in Denver. So, people like me hopefully begin to travel again, cautiously, of course, but, just kind of starting to get out there a little bit. Okay, so some kind of fun and interesting news that from this week. So I had the opportunity to join in on a call that was about claims that Turo's head of claims and some of their claims team members and a few people from their other departments kind of came together and asked, I think it was like 5 hosts to jump on that Zoom call and just talk about some of the most frequently asked questions when it comes to claims and discuss some major claims topics. And that was really cool. Something I really appreciated that they did and that they, invited me to that. So I was really happy with that. And most importantly, I was really happy that they are sort of taking that initiative to open up lines of communication with their hosts. And this is, of course, very new for them too. So I'm very optimistic that in the future, they're going to continue this effort and really create some transparency between how the process works and most importantly, why it works the way that it works, and just really have that be well communicated to their host. So Turo's global head of claims is a guy named Jeff Platt, who now this was my second opportunity to talk to him, and he more recently joined on with Turo and kind of took over the entire claims department. And what I can say from my perspective on a personal note, and hopefully this brings some comfort to all the hosts out there and everyone in the community, is I personally found him to be somebody who I feel like has the right type of mindset and the right type of philosophy when it comes to really managing claims and the way that it should work, and the protection that hosts should have, and really the comfort that hosts should have when it comes to their vehicles and incidents happening and how things are handled, So just the way that he spoke about claims, the way that he thinks that they should be handled, really made a lot of sense to me. And I'm not really too sure if I'm allowed to discuss the things that we talked about, but it's all a lot of the common stuff that we've talked about on this channel, because they go over slides and they were labeled as confidential. But as my conversations continue to open up with them, and where I feel like I can share some more detailed information about what we discussed, of course I'll share it with you guys, but it's not anything that we don't know about already, So basically, and one of the things that they acknowledged that I really liked was the fact that at the end of the day, right, we all have angst about certain claims, and we feel like, well, this claim should have gone this way, and I had the evidence, and the person on the other end told me otherwise. One of the things that they did acknowledge is that, of course there is human error on both ends, right? Whether it's a host who forgets to do an ID check, or take the proper pictures, or whatever it might be, or it's the claims agent on the other end who maybe didn't thoroughly look at the images that were submitted and denied the claim. There is still that element of the human factor and the human error. And so I actually had a host who, I'm so sorry, I don't know if you want me to share your name or not, so just to be safe, I won't share it, but thank you so much for sharing, and hopefully you can comment down below. You shared your story with me about, how I think it was your Maserati that came back from a crazy rental, and it had some sort of mechanical damage, and that you cannot really visibly see, but by the other things that happened to the car, it was likely that all that mechanical damage was caused by the actions of the renter. And at first it was something that Turo was not going to cover, but then you kind of kept fighting it and went back, and you went to your dealership and you did your due diligence, and you really got that evidence together that would prove otherwise. And after going back and forth with them several times, you were able to get that claim covered. So again, there is that human element, and if you really truly feel like you have all the evidence that backs it up, and you can get the documentation, you can get maintenance records and submit that over to Turo, and that your claim should be covered, it's something that you should definitely fight for, because again, you never know if there is a human error on the other end or on your end. So that's something that they acknowledged as well, and that was really cool because it definitely does happen. So along with this meeting, one of the things that they did was they emailed us out our claims scorecard, and it's basically a snapshot of how over the years how many claims you've had, how many trips you've had, and what your claims payouts have been and whatnot. And so that was really, really insightful for me, because I really had no idea, So I'm going to kind of read you guys what my scorecard says and give you the percentages. So, this is really, I think that this is a good snapshot of how risky is it really to do Turo? What type of risk are you really taking on, right? Sometimes if you go on the internet, and I've talked about this in the past, and you do a search for Turo, you can read lots of horror stories, horror story after horror story after horror story. And of course, it's because the internet is notorious for just being a bucket of negativity and bad experiences, because of course the bad experiences are always easier to talk about than the good experiences. The bad experiences are the things that really, get you fired up and get you frustrated about things, just like my last 2 videos that I posted, right? I was really frustrated with that review. So it does ignite sort of that type of emotion, which makes it very easy to talk about, because if you do put it out there and you do write about it, or you do make a video about it, it's a form of outlet. It's a way to get your frustration out, right? But even for myself, somebody just commented below asking me this question, like, oh, it seems like there's a lot of bad experience. If you look at it in the grand scheme of things, the amount of good experience heavily outweighs the bad experiences, right? And I've always said this, but I've never really had the numbers to back it up. So today I can actually share the numbers with you, and you guys can really decide for yourselves, if that's really the case or not. But that has been my experience. If every single day I made videos about all my good experiences versus my bad experiences, probably, 98% of my videos would be positive, right? Majority of my rentals are seamless. Majority of my rentals are 5-star experiences. Majority of my rentals are great people who treat my cars really well. It's just the bad experiences are kind of painful and they're just not fun to deal with. So according to my scorecard, actually I just realized that June is my 5-year anniversary of being on Turo. So it's crazy how time flies. On my scorecard, it says that I have had 2,542 trips. Now, out of the 2,542 trips, I have filed 97 claims, which is far lower than what I had in my mind. And out of those claims that were denied was 7. And I was really surprised to see the number 7 because I could not even recall 7 claims being denied. I only recall 2. One was a recent one about the rim on my 6 Series BMW. And then the second one, which I also talked about, was the little wheel well thing on my Vanderhall. So the other 5, when I saw this, I really tried to think about what else was denied, and I just can't remember what they are. So what I think those other 5 claims come from is probably way early on when I first started on the platform and just didn't know about how the insurance worked and the 3-inch rule and wear and tear and stuff like that because of whatever, insurance package I was on. So I think from my best recollection that any denied claims I had that I don't remember is from that time. So I really wouldn't count it. I would really count it as, I had, so what would that be? I had 92 claims and 2 of them were denied. And if you work out the math on that, my percentage of claims, if you go off the numbers that Turo provided with the 97 claims, that's about a 3.8%. And we did ask on the call, what's kind of the average? And that is actually sort of the average. So I'm like right there in the average range. And then if you kind of look at the numbers the way that I would really look at them, which is 92 claims and 2 claims denied, that would be about 3.6%. So really not a huge difference. If you would have asked me what I thought my percentage of claims were prior to receiving this claims scorecard, I would have probably said somewhere in the ballpark of 10%, because I think, and I was trying to think about why I would even think that it's 10%. That's such a stark difference from 3.8%. I think it's because when some of the bigger things happen, like if you have a totaled car or a major accident, they just feel big, even though those are, single instances that don't happen very often. They feel big, so therefore it makes you feel like, oh my God, you have all these claims, but really they're just a single instance. Another really interesting thing that they provided on this was, so Turo earnings, and that is what I have paid Turo, or the percentage, their earnings from our revenue split. So Turo has made $367,000 off of me in the years that I've been doing this. And out of that, they have paid roughly about $174,000 towards my 90 or so claims that I've had with them. And then the claim amounts that they have been able to recover, whether that's been from the guest or the guest insurance, has only been about $52,000. So they came out of pocket, what would that be? That would be like $120,000 roughly to take care of all of my claims damage. But I think, based off of these numbers, because I have made them $367,000, that I'm a good host for them, because I am a profitable host for them, at least thus far. Now, another really interesting thing about this, I was looking at the numbers, is in terms of the claim money paid out to me to resolve my issues, I think majority of that came from last year. I'd be willing to say maybe between 60 to 70% of that happened last year in 2019. Last year I had a really weird year. If you were following along with me, last year was an anomaly. I just had several major accidents and 2 cars that were totaled last year, which I've never experienced in the 5 years that I've been doing this. And I'm really happy to report that 2020 has not been like that. So last year, I don't know if it was just a series of bad luck or what happened last year was just really weird. So a lot of that comes from last year for sure. Prior to that, I never really had anything like that major happen like what I experienced last year. Off the top of my head, I can recall 4 major accidents last year. Like one of them was a $30K repair, another one was like 10, another one was 15, and then I had 2 totaled cars. One, the payout was like 17 grand. The other one, the payout was like almost 25K. So these were all like very heavy claims that had large payouts just because the damages were so crazy. So I think a lot of that claims paid out came from last year. So hopefully this year does not reflect sort of a similar pattern, and thankfully thus far it does not. So I wanted to kind of share that with you guys. And that's going to kind of bring me to my next thing is yesterday I had one of my relatives contact me because they have an extra car. It's a 2018. I think it's some kind of a Nissan, and they wanted to list it on the Turo platform, and they're totally new to the internet space and marketplaces and this whole way of doing business, like in the gig economy. And so it was for the first time, like where I explained everything from A to Z in a really long time, and explaining it to somebody who really has absolutely no clue about any of this, right? So I really found myself telling my relative, like, okay, these are the things that you want to watch out for, and these are the things that you need to keep in mind before going into this. And if you think you can handle this, then you should list your car. So what that got me thinking about is I'm going to create a series on my channel, and I've created one series already, which is how to get started on Turo, steps 1 through 8, which is a great foundation point. And now I'm going to create a second series, and that's going to be talking about all the things that are risk, right? The things that people are afraid of. If this happens, like, oh my God, what do I do? Also, because lately I've been getting a lot of messages from people who have had totaled cars, who have had stolen cars, and really I feel for you, because I personally have been through every single one of these instances. So I know what a punch in the gut it could feel like when these things happen. So I want to put out this series because 1, you should know what the risks are, and 2, you should be prepared, because these things will inevitably happen over time, right? You look at your risk to ruin over time, these things will eventually happen. And so when they do happen, just rest assured that there is a process, there is a way to deal with it, and that this is what you do. So in that new series, I'll be going over things like theft, what happens if your car gets stolen, what happens if your car gets totaled, what does the process look like, what happens if your car gets totaled and it's a car that you financed and you have a loan on it, and what if the loan to value doesn't match up, what do you do then? Tolls and tickets, what happens if your renter gets into a major accident, a blown out tire, because these are the most common types of things to happen. So I'm going to give you guys all the best tips on how to handle those situations, what steps you need to take to resolve them, and how to best be prepared so that you are covered through insurance. So you guys can keep an eye out for those videos starting tomorrow. It'll likely be about 8 or so videos, and if you guys have any additional subjects that you think I should touch upon, I'll definitely keep an eye out for those comments and make those videos as well. All right guys, on that note, that is it for me. Those are all the updates that I have for you right now. Other than that, I hope you all have a great weekend. Stay tuned for that series. You'll be able to find the playlist on my homepage. And I look forward to reading your guys' questions and comments down below and talking to you guys later today. All right, guys, take care. Bye.